What's going on, guys? It's Jake. We're back in for another YouTube video, and as you can see from the title, we have the new wheel and tire setups we're going to be putting on the car today. But before we get into that, we got a couple more things we're going to take care of. So I wanted to remind you guys, we have a giveaway going on. When we hit 2,000 subscribers, the winner will be chosen, going to win some cool stuff. So I'll put the video right here that you have to go click on to enter the video. Also, be sure to drop a like on this video and hit the subscribe button because it really helps out the channel. And without further ado, I wanted to give you guys some updates on the car and what I've been doing. So taking a look at the engine bay here, I did have to remove the Process West intake manifold and the throttle body just because I had some stuff to finish up in here. So I got the power steering on for the final time, so it's bolted in. We have one of the lines for the rack that I have not yet hooked up because we don't have a reservoir yet, but I do have one on order. I'll have to show you guys that in a future video. We have the alternator bolted on with our IAG alternator relocation bracket. So that is right there, looking nice and red powder coat. That is all on there for the final time. Wrapped up some alternator wiring. So I got a big wire loom here coming off of the main fuse box. Same stuff as when we did the wire tuck. For any of you guys who missed it, I'll put the video up here when we did the wire tuck. It's been a while, but the alternator wiring here was just kind of hanging out. I hadn't yet put it in a wire loom, so I ended up coming down with the alternator wire, feeding into this little wire loom, using one of these holders here, then coming up and hooking up to the bottom side of the alternator. So I really like how that looks. I think it looks pretty sleek. You can't really even tell the alternator has a wire going to it. So very happy with that. We have our speed density tune sensor. It's going to be hooked up right about here where the pipe comes, and I've fed it underneath the fuel rails, so that looks pretty good. I got all the heater core hoses hooked up. I got our cylinder 4 cooling mod there on the return line of the heater hose, so that's all looking good. All tight and right on the firewall with these Oetiker clamps. That's actually what they're called for anybody looking them up. We got the brakes bled with our Chase Bays brake line kit, and we actually had no leaks, so I'm very happy with that. We did have a small problem with our clutch bleeding it, so I went ahead on Rock Auto and got a new master cylinder because I think one of the seals may be out in the clutch master cylinder. So gonna replace that soon, but we got the pitch stop mount in. I got the flex fuel sensor wire that runs around to the rear O2 sensor. I routed it back under there and it goes down to the rear O2 and plugs in real nice and sleek. Can't even tell it's there. Then I also went ahead and rerouted our main hot wire coming from the battery. And for some of you guys who don't know, the battery is in the back of the car. I'm actually gonna take you guys to the back of the car and show you that real quick because I don't think I've ever mentioned it on the channel. So let's check it out. So we're taking a look at the battery setup here in the back of the car. And this is where the spare tire normally sits. But you guys can see a little custom tray action that we got going on here. It's actually bolted through that piece of metal, that piece of sheet metal. I still have the hot hooked up, and I have the ground just kind of hanging out right there because obviously I didn't want to leave the battery hooked up for that long. Some fuel pump wiring, but yeah, basically that red wire gets ran all the way up to the front of the car, and under the car I used a similar clamp to what I used right here on our alternator wiring. So that is kind of what's going on with the battery. So I also redid some boost lines right here. You guys can see this is our boost controller. We have our 2 lines coming off. We use the number 1 port and the number 3 port. So we don't actually use the center port here. 2 hoses come off there, go to our wastegate, and this one that's coming off the T will go to the front of our turbo housing. So like how all that looks, we got our turbo feed line for the oil, and we got our turbo oil return line right down there. Nice little pro tip. It's really hard to not damage these AN fittings when you're putting them together, and some of them are just basically impossible not to. So what you can do is get a black Sharpie after you're done and just kind of paint it with a black Sharpie, and it'll make it look at least a little bit less noticeable. So I've had to do that in a couple places in the engine bay. What else have we done? We have our fuel line that's coming out of the back of our fuel rail here to the T. We have a 90-degree fitting coming off of that, going back over to our fuel pressure regulator. All that is tight and right. I do have the main feed fuel line right here loose, just because I know I'm gonna have to bleed the system to at least right there. So whenever that time comes, we'll be able to take that off really easily. You won't have to worry about getting any wrenches out or anything. I have this extra boost line coming off of here tight. I have the boost line coming off of the boost switch down there that tells our second fuel pump to come on. I have put these support pieces on that you guys saw we modified when I installed the front mount intercooler, and I'll put that video up on the screen. But yeah, these pieces installed. I actually had to move the wastegate dump tube because where the wastegate dump tube came out before, the way I had it routed, it was hitting that black piece. So I had to mess with that. I have the turbo on for the final time besides the housing. And the reason why the housing and the piping isn't on is because they are right now at powder coat. So they're gonna be powder coated the same red color. So I'm waiting for that to get done. And then after that, our clear timing covers are being shipped as we speak. So hopefully we'll have them in the next week, 2 weeks, get them on. Then we can get our radiator on whenever Zach gets done welding up the radiator and fan shroud, because we went with them slim fans as you guys saw in the last video. And then after the radiator goes on, we can put the oil cooler on, the front mount intercooler on, all the piping on. And then, I mean, it's really all up from there. So got to get a base map for this thing, get some fluids in it, and then we'll get started. But we're gonna go ahead and do what you guys have all been waiting for and go ahead and get this thing on the ground, get my new wheel and tire setup on the car. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. So here we have the stage wheels. These are 18 by 9.5 with a 38mm offset. And I will link to the video where we revealed the wheels that were gonna be going on the car, these wheels. And we did a test fit on them. But I basically since then got all the tires put on the wheels, and shout out to Caldwell's for doing that for me. Super big help. These are 265 35 18s. So like I said, 18 by 9.5, but these things do have some meat. So very excited. I think these should definitely hook up. Now let's go ahead and get them all four on the car, and then we can go ahead and drop the car down. But quickly before we do that, I wanted to say something about these Hub-Centric centering rings. So this piece basically converts your smaller hub to the inner part of this wheel. So it's not a necessary piece that you have to have, but it does make sure that the wheel is perfectly aligned on the hub, and it'll take away maybe some small vibrations. So definitely a good idea to get those. They were only like $10 on eBay, and I would recommend staying with the plastic ones just because plastic won't corrode and rust like this hub is already doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these wheels on here. I'll fill you guys in a time lapse, and then I'll catch up with you guys after. So stay tuned, let's go. So I just got all of the wheels in the car. I did not film the left rear because it was just too hard to get to back in that corner. So now I'm gonna go ahead and jack up the rear, take one block out from the rear, let it down, do the same with the front until I get closer to the ground, and then we'll get this thing sitting down. I can't believe it's finally time to get this thing on the ground. It's been 9.5 months almost where this thing has not seen the floor. So it's very exciting. I cannot wait to see how the new wheel setup looks. Super big step in the build. Like I said earlier in the video, if you like this type of content, be sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and let's get it on the ground. right, guys, so I just got the car down and I'm absolutely so happy with it. It looks so great. I can't believe the wheel fitment is so perfect. We got a little bit of a bulge, but that's exactly what I wanted. You guys can look at it. See, a little tiny bit of stick out action there, but that's exactly how I want it. I feel like the wheels really suit the car and it looks so sick on the ground. So this is going to be where we're going to conclude the video. So in the next one, hopefully Zach will be around and we're going to go ahead and put on the intercooler piping and then create the intake tube that's going to catch air from outside of the engine bay to make sure that our charge temps are as cold as possible. So that's going to be what we're going to be doing in the next one. But hope you guys enjoyed this one. We're getting really close, super excited. Gonna get the clear timing covers soon and dedicate a whole video to that and changing those. So be sure to be on the lookout for all those. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.